Well, I think we're at war with Iran, fellow Texans. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 FM, WBAP. Hate to be so flippant about it, but don't we have a weird definition of what war is in 2026? People are like, oh, I thought this was the no war president. I didn't want any war. But this war is hell. We can't have another war. We're gonna be drafting our sons and daughters to send them into. Hang on a second. I mean, we're so spoiled. For us, war is watching things blow up on TV. You know, we have this weird. I think like war is. For all of human history up until about the end of World War II, war is when some army storms over your border and starts ransacking your villages and killing your women and children and burning your crops. Man, we hadn't had that since what? Mexican-American War? When was the last time we had like a foreign army actually try and storm in our borders? Seriously, we're talking like mid-1800s. Not to discount what happened in World War II and World War I and Vietnam. These were all definitely wars. The Gulf War, definitely wars. But we're not to the boots on the ground phase yet. So can we all stop acting like this is some horrible catastrophe or something that's even near the level of a Vietnam or even the level of an Afghanistan or Iraq? We don't have either one of those yet. Because boots on the ground is for what I think the American people probably going to be the cutoff on how much we'll support. Boots on the ground is when it stops being stuff that's blowing up on TV and your sons and daughters or your neighbors' sons and daughters being sent off to die. Completely different scenario. But instead of playing you what Trump said on Saturday when the bombings were first happening, he actually stepped aside for a few comments during the Medal of Honor ceremony. And I thought that was pretty good because it was sort of new information, but it was also information that was kind of embedded with the new happenings. Because when he gave his statements on Saturday, very, very early in the morning, we didn't know the Ayatollah was dead. We didn't know how many soldiers were hurt or killed on our side. But now that we have some sort of inkling of what's going on, now he's going to, I broke it up into two pieces here. First, he gives the reasons why he struck Iran. Like before Saturday morning, what was happening before that necessitated this strike?
Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer, a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. In addition, the regime's conventional ballistic missile program was growing rapidly and dramatically, and this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. The regime already had missiles capable of hitting Europe and our bases, both local and overseas, and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. The purpose of this fast-growing missile program was to shield their nuclear weapon development and make it extraordinarily difficult for anyone to stop them from making these highly forbidden by us nuclear weapons. We were the ones that were complaining. We were the ones that wanted it stopped. But everybody was behind us. They just didn't have the courage to say so. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat to the Middle East, but also to the American people. Our country itself would be under threat, and it was very nearly under threat. I was very proud to have knocked out the Iran nuclear deal by President Barack Hussein Obama. That was a horrible, horrible, dangerous document. They would have had nuclear weapons 3 years ago, and they would have used them. But I'll not let that happen.
So when you hear going forward the coverage where people say he didn't say why, or it didn't explain why, or we don't understand why, or never laid out the reasons why we went to war, or it's muddy, or it's murky, or it's because of racism, or XYZ. He just told you why he did the strikes. Now, in the second clip, it's going to be another thing that's going to make you want to bang your head against the wall when you watch coverage of the Iranian strikes, because there's going to be a bunch of reporters out there pretending like we don't even know what the objectives are. We don't even know how to measure victory. We don't even know if it's good or bad or what the point is or what the goals are or whatever. I've been hearing that way too much over the weekend. And so today he addressed it, which means we shouldn't ever hear about it again, right?
Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders. We also projected 4 weeks to terminate the military leadership, and as you know, that was done in about an hour, so we're ahead of schedule there.
All right, so you heard me kind of edit that down. He gave the 4 big objectives and sort of the 5th corollary objective. Yeah, we're there to kill a bunch of their leadership as well. But for now, he just laid out why he struck and what the objectives are, what the goals are. Immediately after that, when he started taking questions, you will never guess what the first 2 questions are. That's right. Why did you strike and what are the goals? I can't make this. He got kind of not offended or whatever, but he almost chuckled at him. He's like, I just said that. So there's you're all caught up here. But we are in a weird mix of reactions to this. Did you see there was, in London, there was a bunch of Iranians out in the street waving their Iranian flags, shouting Allahu Akbar or something or other. And there was a bunch of Jewish people in the same crowd. There were Jews and Israelis cheering together. There were Iranians who rallied in the streets of Los Angeles. Not exactly a right-wing hellhole, right? It's kind of a Team Blue stronghold. And they're cheering Trump in all this. Listen to this. Actually, this is from the streets of Wisconsin. Yeah, they're just having a good time. They're all out in the street. They're cheering Trump. Now check this out. They start chanting USA. You hear this? All right, so we've seen Iranians go from chanting death to America to the USA chant in our own backyard. I like the sound of that. Your reaction to the Iranian bombing in Iran. You'll hear some more reaction from around the media sphere coming up next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. So we're at war with Iran now, sort of. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, unless you just bumped your head and got amnesia, you probably already know that we bombed Iran over the weekend. The bombings have continued Saturday, Sunday, through today. And Ayatollah's dead. A lot of leaders are dead. It seems to be a lot of people are happy, but not everyone. There's a mixed result here. And we'll be breaking that out because there's a mixed reaction on both Team Blue and on Team Red. So this doesn't seem to be as partisan as most things Trump-related usually are. So stick with me and we'll try and figure out more about that. My next guest, Casey Fleming, he is author of Red Tsunami. It's a book with an Iranian focus here. And first off, welcome to the James Show. It's your first visit here. Give us a little bit of your background and why we should care what you think about the bombing of Iran. Okay, so what does the average person, myself included, not know about what was going on behind the scenes in Iran before the strikes? Okay. We're talking with Casey Fleming. Black Ops Partners is his day job. He's just helping us understand this Iran situation. And when you put it like that, that kind of goes along with the storyline that we've been following here on the James Show about how this seems to be connected. Venezuela is getting thumped. Well, they had a backdoor Chinese connection. They were letting Russia and China in. Cuba is probably going to be next, but it almost seems like we're going through the checklist of the old axis of evil list and just starting to knock over the chess pieces. Is that about right, Casey? So, Casey Fleming, when we were talking about this over the weekend, there were people calling in, and some people wanted Pahlavi from the MEK. There were other people, not Pahlavi from the MEK, Rajavi from the MEK. And then Pahlavi, the old son of the Shah, was another choice to succeed the Ayatollah when they're gone. Now, these two groups are not the same politically, but do you have a preference on who would succeed the Ayatollah in taking over Iran? Where are we going to be in 6 months, Casey? Mm-hmm. All right, Casey Fleming, how do we find more of your work online, sir? All right, well, that's good info. Thank you very much, Casey Fleming. You know, if you Google Red Tsunami, there's a whole lot of news articles about the midterm election. So it's kind of an unfortunate book name in election year. All right, coming up next, more reaction to the Iranian or the bombing of Iran by the U.S. and Syria. Media reaction, politician reaction, and caller reaction. 800 288 9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, so we are still bombing Iran. Things seem to be going more positive than negative, but where are we going to be a month from now? Are we going to look back on 3 months, 6 months, a year from now and think this is still a good idea? Because not everybody thinks so. There's quite a few people out there who think that this is a mistake. All right, that's fine. But when you go look at the people of Iran who are here in the United States, they just can't stop rallying. Of course, there's some protests too. In fact, WFAA did a pretty good split job here where there are some rallies and some protests here locally.
Over the weekend, we saw rallies in North Texas related to these attacks. Reactions were strong and split, some celebrating the attacks and potential for regime change.
This regime is awful. They prevented me from going to school. We need the international community to recognize the right of the Iranian people and the rebellious youth to overthrow this regime.
Dozens gathered in Plano to dance and sing on Sunday, waving flags. Other Iranian Americans met in downtown Dallas Saturday, calling for regime change. Also in Dallas Sunday, some were angry about the U.S. and Israel's attack on Iran.
I don't see Iran standing down. I do think it's a strategic blunder on the part of the United States and Israel, and I think we'll soon see that the outcome probably won't be what Trump had anticipated.
People gathered in Dallas Sunday to demand peace, pushing back against the actions by the United States and Israel.
Ken, Arlington. Hey, Ken, you're on WBAP.
Hey, I think Trump needs to go after the people that help him rebuild their nuclear program so fast, because they didn't do it on their own. That would be China, Russia, probably Cuba's in there.
I don't think Cuba has any resources to spare on that front. Plus, they don't have a nuclear program themselves. So I doubt that they would be involved in that. But yeah, the first two, Russia's probably preoccupied, but not so much so that they couldn't lend a little bit of nuclear help technology. China, probably the most likely scenario. So I think you're more than half right on that one, Ken.
The countries that, what was your guess? The ones that he named, Trump needs to go after, because if Trump does not go after them and all that other stuff, when Trump gets out of office, the Democrats are going to say, well, how come you didn't go after him when you had a chance and all that other stuff? So now he's going to get blamed no matter what and feedback. So he might as well just go after China and all the other.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that, Ken, until you define what does it mean to go after, like to go after China? Because, you know, if you want to go after Venezuela, you can just go pick up Maduro. If you want to go after Iran, you can bomb the Ayatollahs into oblivion. How do you go after China? Are we going to bomb Xi Jinping?
That, or I don't think another kidnapping would be great. You know, then that way, you know, we got them kidnapped and taken to the American courts and let them go through the American court justice, as long as the Republicans are in America of the charge court system. Might as well do it.
Ken in Arlington, you're president of the United States. You're going to go kidnap Xi Jinping.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, there's already a library named after him in the United States because of Joe Biden. We might as well.
We're going to hold him in his own library? You don't think that would start like a open shooting hot war with China?
It probably will, but if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it?
Well,
and
how about we fight one confrontational civilization at a time? Right now, it looks like we're trying to deal with what's going on in the Muslim world. But, you know, I'm not saying you're wrong, because when you put it in context, this really just isn't just about the Muslim world, is it? Because Venezuela's not part of the Muslim world. Cuba's not part of the Muslim world. Neither is Russia or China. So I don't know, Ken. That's a bold move. I'm far too much of an anti-war guy to co-sign that.
Well, so am I. But I think this one will be over in a couple of weeks, and then you need just get all your chips back in order again and figure out what your next move is, and then it would probably be China. That's my guess.
All right. Well, that's a bold statement, but that's what the call line is for. Bold takes from listeners of the James Show. That is Ken in Arlington. Whew, I cannot sign on. I cannot co-sign that, sir, but I don't know. Maybe he's right. Can't tell you he's wrong. Coming up next, RT Trevino. He's an oil and gas expert with Pecos Country Energy. He also has an oil-related podcast called The Crude Truth, which is a brilliant name. If you're going to have a podcast about the oil patch, Crude Truth is just perfect. But one of the things a lot of people are watching, and rightly so, how's the old price of gas doing these days? How's the old price of oil? You know, we've already thumped Venezuela right in the forehead. Now we're going to go thump Iran right in the forehead. Those are two of the biggest oil-producing states on planet Earth. How is this going to affect you at the pump? Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, we're still bombing Iran. Things seem to be going pretty well as far as the results of the bombing, but the results here back at home might cost you a little bit of money. My next guest is perfect for this discussion. It's the great RT Trevino from the Crude Truth Podcast and Pecos Country Energy. Welcome back, sir, as our resident oil and gas expert. How's the price of oil doing? Are we already seeing a spike up? Well, did we see much of a spike up after we went and kidnapped Maduro out of Venezuela? They have the largest proven oil reserves in the world under Venezuela, and I don't remember any big oil shockwaves after that. Well, what's the Strait of Hormuz looking like now? Is it nice and calm and collected? Well, this has got to be a nightmare for those insurance companies. You don't even think about all like the ancillary effects, the shock waves that are felt out. But yeah, that's they didn't have that drawn up in their actuarial tables, I imagine. So, what are we expecting over here in the oil patch on our side of the planet? Is strife over there mean there's going to be more of a reliance on oil producers here, and therefore a good thing? All right. So, where do you expect the price of gas to be in a week or a month from now? Or is there even going to be a noticeable spike, or is this all going to kind of work itself out before it gets to the end user? All right. Tell me about the Crude Truth podcast. What's coming up this weekend, or what was last weekend? What's the latest? Thank you very much, RT Trevino, Crude Truth Podcast, Pecos Country Energy. Thank you. I appreciate the oil patch insight. Coming up next, Pete Hegseth, your Secretary of War, spoke earlier today. Hear his response on the bombings of Iran that are continuing. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. The Iran bombings continue. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome back to the big show. Stepping out today, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth both spoke to the media. And Pete Hegseth was actually the subject of the cold open on Saturday Night Live. I'll play you that after I play the real Pete Hegseth, spelling out a couple things for you. First off, he just gave you like the general update on the situation of Iran earlier today, just a few minutes before the James Show started.
Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. It took the 47th president, a fighter who always puts America first, to finally draw the line after 47 years of Iranian belligerence. He reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. President Trump has also been very consistent. Crazy regimes like Iran, hell-bent on prophetic Islamist delusions, cannot have nuclear weapons. It's common sense. Many have said it, but it takes guts to actually enforce it, and our president has guts. Iran's stubborn and self-evident nuclear pursuits, their targeting of global shipping lanes, and their swelling arsenal of ballistic missiles and killer drones are no longer tolerable risks. Iran was building.
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned.
Sorry about that. And cut to from Pete Hegseth just earlier today. This is a message for all y'all, the media, the Iranian people, the Revolutionary Guard.
We hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time. To Iranian security forces, choose wisely. President Trump has also been clear about your fate in either direction. To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes.
So that's the real Pete Hegseth. Let's go to Saturday Night Live, who, when the Iran bombings were happening, for us, it was really late Friday night or really early Saturday morning. And you know they had to scrap whatever they were going to do to hurry up and put together a skit for this. And my guess is they were already planning on doing the cold open with the Donald Trump impersonator, James Austin Johnson. And they were probably going to make fun of the State of the Union. And then they just tweaked it. It was like, well, all right, we'll make fun of the Iran bombing thing. But even when they're trying to make fun of him, it still wasn't even really that bad. They do Trump and then Hegseth. I'll do Trump first.
Last evening, at the very normal time of 2 a.m, President Trump informed the nation that we were at war with Iran. And now, with some further thoughts, President Trump.
Hello. Hi. Good evening and happy World War III to all who celebrate. It's me, Donald Trump, FIFA Peace Prize winner and Nobel Peace Prize taker. Yoink! Remember when I did that? I launched this attack after me and my Board of Peace decided that we were bored of peace. Little wordplay there. Did you catch it? As we all know, Iran has been 2 weeks away from developing a nuclear weapon for like the last 15 years or something. So we had to act now, and we're doing war. War! What is it good for? Distracting from the Epstein files.
All right, so pretty funny there. Pete Hegseth comes out. Colin Jost, the guy from the Weekend Update, plays Pete Hegseth. And I don't think they realize this, that for what they think is insulting and demeaning and embarrassing and cringe, you and I probably think is cool. So their bit on Pete Hegseth, like the caricature that they're doing of him, is he's this hyper masculine, aggressive, toxic masculinity football playing. It's like, that's not really an insult for most of flyover America, for most of red state America. We think that's pretty cool. We think that's a compliment. Oh, you're hyper aggressive over testosterone. Yeah, that's actually what we think is cool. So I guess if you're one of these, just these tenderfoot city slicking sissies, this is an insult. They're like, oh boy, that would be so embarrassing if someone portrayed me like that. I wish someone would portray me like this. This is Pete Hegseth.
Sup, dillweeds?
Hang on, I already love him now. Sup, dillweeds? That's supposed to be like the frat boys in Revenge of the Nerds. I mean, you know how they're supposed to be like the bad guys, but you look at them, you're like, well, they're the ones that are going to get all the chicks. Girls walk in. But anyway, I like this version of Colin Jost playing Pete Hegseth better than I like Colin Jost.
Sup, dillweeds? As you probably heard, Operation Epic Fury is underway, and as you could tell from the veins in my neck, I'm pumped. Why do we call it Epic Fury? Simple. 8 letters. Lines up perfectly for some bitchin' knuckle tats. Yeah! And those are my least problematic tattoos. Shut up! They asked for someone to volunteer to oversee this half-baked operation, and I didn't walk, I ran.
See what he did there? All right, coming up next, Darren Gobb's coming back on the James Show. He's with the State Freedom Caucus Network, but he's a guy who was flying helicopters in the military for his career, retired out of that, and now has gone to activism. So retired Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb is going to have some strong opinions on the Iranian bombings that continue for a third day. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They were all over the Iran bombings today. Go check them out. They come on right before the James Show, 11 to 2 on WBAP. So the reaction to the Iran bombings has come up with some interesting overlaps in your Venn diagram here. Because Tucker Carlson is against the strikes on Iran. It looks like Matt Walsh is against the strikes on Iran. Matt Walsh, the guy from Am I a Racist and What is a Woman? That dude. Well, you know who else is against it? Jasmine Crockett. So that means Jasmine Crockett agrees with Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh on anything. And I think that means a wormhole is going to open up and just swallow Earth. Like, I think that creates like a glitch in the Matrix. They're going to have to like reboot the entire system here. My next guest, Darren Gobb from the State Freedom Network. He's a retired lieutenant colonel who used to fly helicopters for the U.S. Army, coming back on the James Show. Hey, welcome back, Darren. It's been a while, but it'd be interesting to hear from you today. I'm always interested in the opinions on career military folks when we have something like this going on. First, before we get into why it happened or what's going to happen afterwards, how do you think the bombings themselves are going? Are they really as good as being as reported? Well, we've had 6 reported deaths on the American side, and I don't have details on what happened there. Do you know? So it wasn't they didn't I'm sorry, they didn't shoot down a helicopter, they didn't shoot down an airplane, they didn't like hit one of our bases in Doha with a missile. Okay. So now let's get into the actual outside of the bombing analysis here. So we've knocked out the Ayatollah, we've knocked out a bunch of his successors and sort of his colleagues and other leaders. Who's in charge of Iran right now? Isn't that kind of how we did ISIS when they were doing the Syrian civil war and they took a little chunk of North Iraq? We just kept killing the head of the snake until we got to the snake's butt, I guess. So, Darren Gobb, drawn from your whole career in the military, do you think we're going to need boots on the ground at some point? Because I think for a lot of people, that's where we sort of draw the line as far as the intervention goes, is boots on the ground. Well, I love hearing that. Darren Gobb, tell them about your book. But does it contain my highly technical, analytical point of a snake butt? And you don't have to answer that. It's something stupid I said earlier. Yeah, it'd probably sell more if you did that. Thank you very much, Darren Gobb. Go check him out online. Coming up next, we're in this weird twilight zone where Jasmine Crockett and Tucker Carlson agree on bombing Iran, or actually against bombing Iran. You'll hear from both of them next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, what's up, sports fans? James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. And look, start getting it on your mind, baseball fans. They're already doing the exhibition games. I'm going to be doing a live remote on opening day, so that's coming right here around the corner. For all you people who got hooked on Prize Picks during football season, you can continue the fun. There's other sports going on. There's still basketball. There's still hockey. But whatever your sport is, you could be a soccer guy, you could be a tennis guy, you could be a golf guy. We got it all the way down to darts. But look, before the season starts, baseball fans, there's some special things that Prize Picks can do that are season-wide. Like Shohei Ohtani. Will he have 48 and a half home runs? Will he have more or less than that during the entire season? So you don't have to, once you wait for the season to start, these go away. But you have some special preseason games that you can play, like Kyle Schwarber, 41.5 home runs. Will he have less or more? You can see how many, Shohei Ohtani again, 148.5 strikeouts. Will he have more or less than that? So you can go do this on all kinds of crazy statistics. Just make a lineup of 2 to 6 players, pick more or less on one of these crazy stats. Will Aaron Judge have more than 5 multi-home run games? Will Michael Harris have more than 18 stolen bases? It's pretty fun stuff to add a little spice to the sport you're already loving. Download Prize Picks, use promo code WBAP, get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. Download Prize Picks. The promo code is WBAP, and that gets you $50 in lineups immediately when you play your first $5 lineup. So even before the season starts, Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Bombings continue in Iran. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Generally speaking, things seem to be going pretty well. 6 servicemen are reported dead, a few more wounded. Every single one of those lives lost is an absolute travesty. Now, personally, I'm a little more anti-war and anti-interventionist than both parties here. So I wouldn't have done this, but I'm no more exercised or worked up about this than I was the other 7 countries that he bombed, or the other 7 countries that Obama bombed, or however many that were bombed in the first Trump administration, or Obama, Biden, George W. Bush. They all just run around bombing people without congressional approval. So while that's a legit criticism, that's not a legit criticism of this specific bombing. That's a legitimate criticism of every bombing we've done since World War II. So that's kind of off the table if you want to have a legit complaint about it. So let's look at some of the complaints here, because the strange bedfellows that have been made from this. Tucker Carlson and Jasmine Crockett are both against it. Let me play Tucker Carlson. His cut's kind of long here, but it's pretty thorough. Tucker Carlson.
Because all the noise has been about Iran's nuclear weapons. They're on the verge of building a nuclear weapon any day now. Now, if you're semi-awake, you may remember that it was only about 8 months ago, back in June of last year, during the short but hot 12-day war against Iran, that the United States took out nuclear processing facilities deep underground and then announced we have ended the Iranian nuclear threat. And then without you noticing, when you were on summer vacation or going to your kid's graduation or bringing them back to school or watching the Super Bowl halftime show with your jaw slack, well, you were not tuned in. All of a sudden, that threat out of nowhere reemerged. And there's Benjamin Netanyahu on television or at the White House for a 7th time in a single year, making the case that we're right on the verge of a nuclear holocaust. Any day now, the Iranian government will have a nuclear weapon. And by the way, as noted, the president does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. That is one thing that he takes very, very seriously. And he said that to the Iranians. And unfortunately, turns out, whatever side you're on, the current Iranian government is very hard to deal with. Now, what's interesting is that the administration, I think to its credit, hasn't done a ton of this. There's been, we feel bad for the billion Iranians murdered in the streets of Tehran or some whatever. Who knows what the number is? You can't believe any number connected to any conflict in any country ever, because everyone lies about them all the time. But some number of Iranians protesting the Iranian government apparently were killed by the government. And we feel bad about that. And we legitimately do feel bad about that. Is that a good reason to topple the existing power structure and just let the country devolve into whatever happens next? Probably not. And the administration hasn't really made that case, or really any case, other than they can't have nuclear weapons. So you can at least feel satisfied that they're not trying very hard to lie to you. They're basically just saying, looks like we could have a war. Because everybody knows the only reason we're having this war is because Israel wants it. This is their last chance, they believe. This presidency is the last presidency where they're going to have unequivocal bipartisan support, period. You can't primary every Thomas Massie, and there's a whole army of them coming at some point because everyone can see what's going on. And you can shut down X, and you can shut down the internet. You can be like Great Britain and arrest people who protest Israel, but attitudes are not going to revert to what they were 5 years ago. Sorry. And they know this. So this is their last chance. What's so amazing is that Israel, which at least is acting in what it perceives to be its own national interest, is joined by its shills in the United States, of course. But really, its only other ally in this is the American news media, whose job it is to tell you the truth and inform you as to what's happening, to tell you, hey, wake up. The world could be changing, and it's going to affect you and your family. That's their job. And instead, they've been lulling you to sleep with the same variety of transparent lies and propaganda.
Okay, now with that, let's go to today's episode of What the Heck Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time?
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
Today's What Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time? Brought to you by Raytheon. Just kidding. Jasmine Crockett sort of agree. I mean, she agrees with Tucker that the Iran bombing is wrong, but for kind of different reasons.
We can have a debate about whether we should be having a war with Iran, and we don't really have much of a debate about whether the Iranian regime is a bad regime. But Congress was not asked about this.
No, we were not. And that's the problem. You know, there are people that will land on all sides of this conflict and what should be happening or shouldn't be happening. But the one thing that I want to remind the American people of is that we have a Constitution. And frankly, as members of Congress, we swore an oath to the Constitution as well as the president. And right now, what we are clearly witnessing is lawlessness yet again from this administration. And my question to my colleagues in a very serious way is, will you put aside your loyalty to this orange man and actually focus on your loyalty and your oath to the Constitution, which says that only Congress has the power to declare war? It is time to rein him in a bipartisan way.
Don't you feel like a little tinge of racism the way they call him Orange Man? Because what if I said, well, yeah, well, you don't have to listen to that Bert Sienna congresswoman. People would get a little abrased by that, wouldn't they? But no, that was the point I was making earlier. If you're griping about the constitutionality of the strikes, but you said nothing during the previous president or, you know, during Obama bombing 7 countries without congressional approval, your opinion means nothing. That's not a legit complaint. Now, the consistency award does go to Thomas Massie and Rand Paul and James Parker. Thank you very much. But here's the other clip where I think this is a great question that we all need to answer ourselves. Coming from Jasmine Crockett, how many people have to die?
My question to Speaker Johnson is, how many people are going to have to die because this president just decided that he was going to do whatever he wanted to and to ignore our congressional authority and our congressional powers? I don't think that we should wait till Monday. And this is being said as someone who literally has an election on Tuesday. I've got to make sure that I am doing what I swore an oath to do as a sitting member of the House. And I think Speaker Johnson needs to call us in right now, and we need to deal with this right now.
Coming up next on the James Show, a terror attack in Austin seems to be in retaliation for the bombings of the Muslim world in Iran, or at least as perceived by the immigrant wearing the Property of Allah sweatshirt with a Iranian flag t-shirt on under that. Yeah, you think this might be connected somehow to Muslim terrorism? Details coming up next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We have a retaliatory attack in Austin. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, this isn't the Iranians striking themselves, but what we have here is a guy who came over to the United States on a tourist visa, overstayed, had a sham marriage, and when the lady found out it was a sham just to get his citizenship, she did divorce him. He stuck around. But he used the paperwork trail that he'd already created to get permanent residency and then citizenship. And then he's tried to bring over 2 of his wives. I don't know if he's polygamous or they were wives in succession here. But this is the guy that they're talking about. It's a guy. Look, let me just play the report here from the TV station in Austin, and you tell me what's going on here, because it really does sound like a lot of this is tied to what happened in Iran. I mean, what are the odds that your boy's going to have on a Property of Allah shirt? What are the odds that the guy is going to be having on a Iranian flag shirt under that? So when we have so many just questionable pieces of evidence thrown at you here, you can't help but come to the conclusion that this might have something to do with terrorism. All right, aside from the goofy reports that you see of the TV, let me just play like a clip from the FBI guy at the Austin press conference after the terror attack on 6th Street this weekend that left multiple people dead, more wounded.
At this point, prepared to say that it was potentially an act of terrorism. There were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism. Again, it's still too early to make a determination on that. That's why we are investigating it very closely with our partners with Austin Police Department.
Yes, it may tangentially have some connection to a nexus of terrorism. Like, how many degrees of separation can you put? It was totally motivated by Islamism, by a terrorist, the same ideology of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood and the Taliban. It's all the same ideology. Oh, I might have some evidence of some connection to a nexus of a... Shut up, it's terrorists, clearly. Here's the actual news report from our local WFAA.
What was meant to be a night out turned into chaos and terror in Austin early Sunday morning.
Police say a gunman opened fire on 6th Street around a bar closing time, killing 2 people and hurting 14 others.
Our Cole Sullivan is live for us in Austin this morning as we learn more about the victims. And Cole, what may have led up to the shooting? What do we know right now?
Via overnight, police opening the streets around Buford's, that bar where all of this went down just over 24 hours ago. This is the first full day of the investigation into whether or not this was a terror attack, and we already have new information. Overnight, ABC News verifying this image of the suspect before he opened fire. Look at the screen. You can see he's wearing a sweatshirt that says Property of Allah, and ABC sources say he also had a shirt with an Iranian emblem on it. Austin police say he's 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen named Unjaga Jagnay. Police say just before 2 a.m.
Wait, is that really his name? Because that sounds like one of my friends at the bar just made up a new racial slur, doesn't it?
Say he's 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen named Unjaga Jagnay. Police.
Can you call anyone an Unjaga without getting in trouble? I would lose my job if I called a minority an Unjaga today or tomorrow. And what was the last name?
Naturalized U.S. citizen named Unjaga Jagnay.
Jagnay. This sounds like you're saying something backwards. You ever tried to read English backwards? Like instead of James, my name would be Samaj, right? That's what it sounds like.
Say just before 2 a.m. yesterday, he opened fire toward this crowded bar, first with a pistol out the window of his SUV, then parked and started walking back toward the busy 6th Street Entertainment District with a rifle. Police say officers stationed here responded and shot and killed him all within minutes of the first 911 call. Witnesses say it was terrifying.
You just think about survivor. You just think about this. Like, just survive.
We were there as Austin police SWAT swarmed this house tied to the suspect yesterday. Federal agents and crime scene techs spent hours on scene serving search warrants. Neighbors say they recognized the suspect but did not know much about him. Here on 6th Street, people have started bringing flowers to a makeshift memorial outside this bar, and we expect to get more information later today from Austin police. we'll keep you updated.
Jeepers, James Show listeners. I wonder why people are nervous about the epic cities being built in North Texas. I wonder why they're worried about 1/3 of Frisco having the same ideological outlook as your fella who was ruining the people Saturday night on 6th Street. I wonder if it's just plain old racism and xenophobia and bigotry, or maybe if people are what you call Islamophobic, maybe it has something to do with they keep killing people all over the place in terror attacks. You know, there's a reason why no one's scared if a Lutheran is coming at you. There's a reason why no one gets scared if there's a let's draw a Jesus contest. There's a reason why no one gets scared when a nun is getting on an airplane. It's just history. It's just noticing patterns, pattern recognition. You're not a bad guy for noticing it and pointing it out. You're not a bad guy for wanting to remove the people who want you dead. You're not a bad guy for wanting to remove the people or even prevent them from coming here, the people that want to overthrow your Constitution and your civil rights. You're not a bad guy if you want the United States to still afford everyone, men, women, minorities, all religions, their full complement of human rights, because that's not what happens in the Muslim world when they take over, does it? So just remember, Austin, this isn't going to be the last one. Oh, there will be more. The only question is how many people are they going to get to shoot before someone with a gun shows up and takes them out? Yeah, they were bragging, oh, the cops were there in minutes. Well, that didn't do you any good if you're already dead. That didn't do the 3 people that already died and the whatever dozen people wounded. Time to carry, y'all? Is that what you think? Because this is what they're saying on the gun blogs right now. This is Colion Noir. He's a brother who has a very popular gun blog, and that's what he's saying. If you're a half-time carrier, maybe you should think about being a full-time carrier.
What I'm saying is that in this current global crisis, your lifestyle has to reflect the reality of the threat. If you're a part-time carrier, someone who carries 50% of the time, or only when you're going to bad neighborhoods, you're leaving a gap that a predator like this shooter is looking for. This is the time to think about really increasing that percentage closer to 100. If that means you change your plans, if that means maybe you stay sober so you can stay strapped and legal, then maybe that's something you might want to consider. You never know when or where a sleeper cell is going to decide to bring the front lines to your doorstep. You don't get to choose the time of the attack, but you do get to choose your level of readiness.
Interesting food for thought. Coming up next, Kyle Bass. If you don't know the name, he's a guy who's trying to drill some high-capacity wells over an aquifer in East Texas, and you're going to be voting on a proposition on the ballot tomorrow that is aimed at his project. It's Proposition, I think, 10, the one that says you can't use the natural resources from the water table to private entities or export it. Well, you'll hear from him next. Why is he doing this? Why is this a good thing? Is this necessary? Is this going to ruin our water supply? Why does he think this is a good idea? Why do they think it's a bad idea? And what's his answer to it? You'll hear from Kyle Bass coming up next on a very important proposition that's going to be on your ballot tomorrow on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Now, if you'll allow me, I'm going to take a pause from the Iranian coverage for a second to talk about something that's going to be on your ballot tomorrow. One of the propositions says you can't take groundwater and export it or sell it to a private entity. And I believe this is aimed at a friend of a friend. Kyle Bass is a pretty well-known entity. He's joining us on the phone right now for the first time on the James Show. And just full disclosure here, we have a mutual friend, and so I've met Kyle a couple times, and I was hanging out with him, and he seems like a nice enough guy. But I am from East Texas, and a lot of people out there are pretty concerned about the permits that he's filed to do some high-volume well drilling. I know you're probably not all up to speed on that. So here's a report from October out in Bug Tussle to get you caught up from KTK.
Well, new at 10, 40 applications for high-capacity water wells in Anderson County have been suspended. Members of the Neches and Trinity Valley's Groundwater Conservation District Board voted unanimously suspending the permit applications filed by Pine Bliss LLC and Redtown Ranch Holdings LLC. Now, the application sparked controversy earlier this year, with state lawmakers and local communities concerned about the potential impacts to East Texas groundwater. Opponents say the wells would drill billions of gallons of water each year. Now, the applications are now suspended until studies are completed to determine the impact of these wells on the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer.
So Republican Proposition 7 calls for the state to ban the large-scale export or sale of Texas groundwater and surface water to any single public or private entity. Kyle Bass, thank you for joining us on the James Show. First off, why do you want to do this, or why does anybody want to do this?
Well, James, I'm glad to be here. Look, number one, let's actually set a couple of the things that are facts in our state today. We are not just talking about Anderson County. We're talking about Anderson County, Houston County, and Henderson County, just to be clear, number one. Number two, when you look to the Neches Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, there is already a permit that has been approved and ready to go for 50,000 acre feet of water. That is more than 16 billion gallons of water a year. And that is already approved. It's already in Henderson County. They just haven't drilled it yet. For those of you that are doing some real, that are actually willing to look into these things, go look at this permit for Water Solutions and look who's behind the permit. And then cross-reference that to who in the political sphere these people's largest donors are. And I think it's worth having a look at that, number one. Number two, in the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer, where we are looking to drill for water, there are already 200,000 acre feet of water permits in one county, in Robertson County, down there at Texas A&M. And so when we are looking for what we're looking for, number one, the rule of capture has been the strongest private property right in the state of Texas since 1904. Those looking to change the rule of capture better not be taken lightly, meaning this should be talked about. This should be really investigated from the scientific perspective as well as the political perspective, because the state water plan, when you look at the state of Texas, we are the Tigris and Euphrates of growth in the Western world. We grow faster than any sovereign enterprise in the world, and certainly in the West. Whether or not you believe China grows at 5%, we've got some oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona. But outside of China, Texas is the growth engine of the West. When you look at what are our limiting factors, they are water and electricity. When you read the state water plan, James, the water plan isn't really a plan. And that is just my personal view on that plan. So when you say, why do we need to take groundwater and move it from east to west and east to south and southwest? It's really simple. If the state's going to continue to grow at 4 to 4.5% a year, and you assume some linearity between population growth and water usage, which I think is a given, then the state has got to come up with a better plan, because the current plan isn't one.
So tell me more about the plan, because the people out in East Texas are concerned that you're going to take so much water out of the aquifer that it's going to negatively impact the people around them. And you can say, well, it's not going to, but what if it does? What if you pump up a whole bunch of water and then, Sanderson Farms gets mentioned, and there's a whole lot of other businesses out there that use groundwater. Is there a plan to compensate them? Should there be any negative consequences?
Yeah, Sanderson Farms is a really fun one for me. If you look at the amount of acreage that Sanderson Farms owns versus the amount of water that they pump, they are one of the most egregious users of Texas groundwater in the state. So their decision to challenge our potential permits is somewhat, I don't know, it's a little funny to me when you actually do the numbers. But when you look at drilling, water drilling, and you look at the rule of capture, and you look at this concept of whether or not it affects your neighbors, there's a lot of science that goes into this, but about 80% of our water that we're hoping to drill for is all the way down in the deepest part of the Wilcox Aquifer. So 80% of what we're doing is not going to change anyone's aquifer levels or well levels. So on the 20% of what we're looking to do in the Carrizo, if for some reason the cone of depression from the drilling ends up affecting neighbors, there is a mitigation number that is always part of the permitting situation, where the Groundwater Conservation District will end up and the driller will end up paying to mitigate, i.e. lowering the wells of your immediate neighbors so that there's no effect on them from a perspective of pumping in their wells. So, again, all of the opposition to what we're doing, what I believe is people that just haven't really understood the engineering and the mitigating factors that come into what we're doing. Again, think about this. In Henderson County alone, we are hoping that we can prove up 16 or 17,000 acre feet of water. There is a 50,000 acre foot of water permit existing today in Henderson County. And so, that got approved, and nobody blinked an eye. We're looking for roughly 1/3 of that amount, and the whole world feels like it's come to an end. So, James, when you think about the world we live in today, we live in a world that I call it a post-truth world. It's whoever tells the best narrative wins. I just live by the law and the engineering. The law and the engineering stipulate that what we're doing is right down the center of the fairway of what the rule of capture says you can do.
Right.
One of the places where we're looking to drill is my home family ranch. Do you think I'm going to denigrate the value of my own land? Absolutely not. Or my neighbors that are all my friends? There is no way I'm going to do that.
Kyle,
so, in the end, it's important.
Let's do a follow-up after the election here, because I think this discussion needs a little bit more time. And on a day when we're about to start World War III, I kind of got to get back to the Iran stuff. I just wanted to touch on this before the election, because I'm sort of hyper skeptical of the people who don't want us to develop our resources. They don't want us to drill for oil. They don't want us to cut down forests. They don't want us to drill for water. They don't want us to build data centers. They don't want us to build ice facilities. And some of the reasons they don't want to build data centers and ice facilities because it'll use too much water. Well, how about we go get more water?
Yeah.
We don't want you to do that either. It's like, all right, y'all are just against everything. Yeah. And I haven't heard your side of the story, and I wanted to start with you. So put a thumbtack in this, and let's come back on and talk about this again when we have a little more time, Kyle.
Yeah, James, I'll say one thing. If you look at the hearings that have been had by the House, the Texas House Natural Resources Committee, you look at who organized these hearings, what you find are very strange bedfellows. There is Vanessa Puig Williams, who is as far left as you can possibly be. She once told me that she doesn't care if Texas grows. She doesn't want the natural resources used.
Yep.
That is who that is who the Republicans used to set up the hearing. So it's a very, very strange bedfellow situation in my mind.
All right, Kyle, we'll have you back on. I'm just out of time here. This is Kyle Bass. Look for Proposition 7 tomorrow and think about it. Think about what you just heard and if you're sure about that proposition when you go vote tomorrow. Coming up next, we're going to return to the discussion of the Iran bombings, but more specifically, how is this going to affect the markets and your money? Kathy DeWitt of DeWitt & Dunn next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. Not to be digging in my own belly button or you either, but how does this bombing in Iran affect me? How does this affect you? How does this affect your money? Kathy DeWitt from DeWitt and Dunn has a little bit of insight on that. And first off, the markets didn't seem to care very much. It was a split result here, and there wasn't a whole lot of movement. You've seen oil kind of flinch a little bit, but nothing drastic. Do we expect any real effect on our money, our investments, our stocks, our portfolios from this bombing of Iran, Kathy? Well, I think when you hit records for so long, people start to get a little antsy anyway. Then you're just adding this on top of it. Right? You just execute the plan. Well, look, I've always said that if the way you know if you're too risky in your investments is if you don't like the way your portfolio performed in that big dip we had in April, where it just went down for 20%. And then luckily it came right back really fast. So there was no long-term damage. But you have like a body of information to where if you're not happy with that, that means your investments are too risky. You need to make some moves now before the next downturn so you don't get all hurt. Yeah, everyone likes money there, Kathy. So that's a pretty easy call. The price of oil, is that a concern? Okay, so when we see previous strikes, like missile strikes on foreign countries, the record of history shows the market usually shrugs these things off if it reacts at all. Well, look, when I see hundreds, maybe even thousands, I don't know what the real number is, but how about a boatload of Tomahawk missiles flying all over Iran? Does that mean I should go buy some Raytheon? They make Tomahawk missiles. All right, this is Kathy DeWitt from DeWitt and Dunn. Thank you very much for taking a look at our money while we're having, I guess, a war. I mean, does this count as a war in your book, Kathy? Yeah, well, the caption on Fox News right now says Trump says Iran war may last for weeks, so I guess it could be worse, but we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you very much. This is Kathy DeWitt. You can catch her show on the weekends here. On Sunday, it's on at 11, and then they have a replay after the James Show Rewind at 4 o'clock as well. All right, thank you very much, Kathy. All right, more reaction to the Iran bombings coming up next on the James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners here in Texas. James Parker here for Rhino Shield. Listen, if you're thinking about painting your house, you better be talking about the inside of your house. I don't want to hear anybody even thinking about painting the outside of your house before you check on Rhino Shield. Now, this is kind of a tricky thing I'm doing here because I know if you go to rhinoshielddfw.com and you have Gary come out and explain to you what the process is, you're probably going to go ahead and use Rhino Shield. But look, I'll do the soft sell. You don't have to believe me. Just go ask Gary to come out because it's more than just slapping on some sort of color on the existing boards of your house. They have to do a lot of prep work. They have to do a lot of sealing work. If there's any wavy or warped boards or cracks, they have to make those repairs first. But once they get it all done and they have a proper seal, then Gary's going to explain to you how the primer works, and then the little nano ceramic particle coating on top of that works in tandem as well. And then you find out like, oh, I would be insane to not go with this. Well, and if the only holdup you have then is the price, well, I got two ways to help you. Number one, mention the James Show. You get 15% off. You're welcome. And then also, I just ask Gary real nicely. He'll put it on a low monthly payment for you. That's right. You can finance it. So you don't have to come out of pocket for thousands of dollars all up front. You can put it on a low monthly payment, pay $150, $160. So really, you can't afford to not use Rhino Shield. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com. So we're sort of at war with Iran. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Kamala Harris said that Trump dragged us into a war that we don't want. Who's this we? I can't say that there is a monolithic block of American response to this. It's been pretty divided. It's divided for Team Blue. It's divided for Team Red. There's people on Team Blue who are saying, listen, I don't normally agree with what this guy does, but this makes sense. John Fetterman being one of them. There are people on Team Red that like this, that don't like this. I played you Tucker earlier with his reasons why he didn't like it. Let me give you the best Team Red explanation, or one of the best Team Red explanations on why this is a good thing. Mark Levin did a response to this on Saturday, and he's on Fox News. He was going to do his Saturday Life, Liberty, and Levin, but they brought him in a few hours before that to be a guest, and they let him talk. He let him give long answers. So here's 3 clips that I pulled, and this is probably the strongest pro-Iranian bombing argument you can hear.
This is a big deal. Khomeini's dead. It's like Hitler was killed or killed himself. This is a big deal. Now, we do know how this government is created. There's been many papers written on this. It runs like the mob. He created a government that is loyal to him. He made all the calls, all the shots. So you have these guys negotiating over here. They had no control over anything. And while they were negotiating, we're making progress, he was giving a speech in Farsi saying, we're keeping our nukes, we're keeping our uranium, we're keeping our ballistic missiles, and that is that. And this is what they do. That's number one. Number two, he had a successor. It was his son. And we believe his son was killed too. Number three, the whole loyalty apparatus to him is gone. It's like the mob. That's the way he built this thing. And he had an inner circle, then a next circle, then he had the military circle, and he built it that way so these people would be loyal to him, and he used his fundamentalist ideology as the basis for promoting his personal power. That's exactly what he did. So they can be defeated. They may have somebody lined up, but they're not going to have the loyalty that he had. That's number one. Number two, what is all this off-ramp stuff? I mean, when you're in a UFC fight, it ends one of 2 ways. You beat the crap out of the guy and he's knocked out, or they surrender. Now, if they want to unilaterally surrender, then that's fine. Like with the Japanese, they wouldn't unilaterally surrender, so Truman put an end to it his own way, all through World War II and so forth and so on. You want to end a forever war, you end a forever war. And these guys are losing. As far as I'm watching our network and other networks, their response is utterly ineffective. They're shooting shotgun blasts. They're hitting their own allies. Their allies are turning on them. I don't see mass casualties in Israel. I don't see mass casualties anywhere. Nothing like there was in June. So I'm using my own mind, my eyes and my ears, and I'm saying they're getting the crap kicked out of them. The top echelon was knocked out. The supreme leader is supreme no more. He's supremely dead. And that whole infrastructure has been attacked. The whole top infrastructure has been attacked. The Israelis accomplished that. Our military's beating the hell out of various objects of our that we're targeting, military, and so this is number one, a massive success so far.
Okay, so quick update on the numbers he was citing there. No Americans have been dead. Well, the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, said today 6 American service members have been killed. But other than that, I think his point still stands. All 6 of those is a tragedy and a life lost. It all counts. But if you could say that we were going to flip over the Ayatollah and end an almost 50-year thorn in the side of the international community, the #1 world sponsor of terrorism, and all it would cost us was 6 American lives, I think a lot of people would take that. I think a lot of people would be okay with that. Also, Mark Levin talked about the reaction to the Iran bombings and what that tells him.
These Democrats, they support illegal aliens, criminals, and now a terrorist regime. They're sitting there trying to figure out how to sabotage the President of the United States and the United States military in the middle of a war that we're winning. And Schumer says, we're going to call everybody back and have an emergency meeting about what? Under Article 2, Section 1, the President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. Under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, Congress can declare war. Okay, they can declare it or not declare it. And they only declared it 11 times in our history, and the last time was World War II. They didn't have a problem when Clinton was dropping bombs, and Obama was dropping bombs, and Biden was dropping bombs. No problem. The fact of the matter is, the War Powers Act of 1973, every administration, Democrat and Republican, have believed that that is utterly unconstitutional. Congress and the president have not brought this matter before the Supreme Court because they don't really want it resolved.
We'll continue with Mark Levin's comments. I got one more clip of his reaction to Operation Epic Fury as it was starting this weekend. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, welcome to the James Show. We're just talking about bombing another country on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robinson. It still seems weird how flippant we are about just dropping bombs. Like, hey, you don't like America? Here's a couple of American gifts for you. Boom, 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 boom. But I am a peaceful guy. I wouldn't have done any of these interventions. But that being said, the people chanting death to America over there wishing you were dead, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for them, isn't it? And I know I'm not saying all Iranians are all Persians or whatever, but whoever is chanting that, you can drop a bomb on them and I won't feel nearly as bad about it. And you shouldn't feel bad about killing people who want you dead. Again, I'm saying this is a complex situation and I'm a complex guy. I wouldn't have done this. If I was president, I wouldn't have bombed Iran. I wouldn't have taken Maduro. I wouldn't have done a whole lot of these interventions. However, what's the negative effect on my life? Nothing. What's the negative effect on your life? Nothing. But I also recognize what Mark Levin is saying here. If we had a president with the gonads to do this before, if Trump had done this in his first term, you know what we wouldn't have had? We wouldn't have had an October 7th. We wouldn't have had Iran funding Hezbollah and Hamas and the ISIS insurgency in Syria. We wouldn't have had so many of our soldiers, our Navy, our seamen captured, held hostage, kidnapped, ransomed, embarrassed with a note. We wouldn't have had to send people pallets of cash. We wouldn't have had all the IEDs that did kill our sons and daughters in the insurgencies in Iraq and Afghanistan. If someone had done this a long time ago, we could actually point to a lot of tangible improvements that would have happened between then and now. So the thing that makes me does make me feel okay about this is we're not going to see what the benefits are from this in the future, because the benefits from this are things that aren't going to happen. We aren't going to have. You're not going to turn on Twitter one day and just see jihadists parachuting in to a music festival like a bunch of monsters to slaughter kids and rape women and take prisoners. So let me continue with Mark Levin. This is from Saturday. And again, we know that the update as of 3 o'clock our time, according to CENTCOM, we have 6 Americans dead. So that's the only caveat in what he's saying here, because so far, and again, this was on Saturday, what he sees is this has been an enormous success.
It's time to get this over with right now. If I would have told you a day ago that Khomeini would be dead, that in fact the response has been fairly anemic, that the so-called moderate Arab countries would be ganging up on Iran, if I told you that so far as we know not a single American casualty is taking place, you'd tell me I'm drinking something or I'm smoking something, that it's not that simple. It's not that it's that simple. This is one of the most brilliant military operations, perhaps ever, when we learn all about it. We're having enormous success with our Israeli partners. The Arab countries have turned on Iran. What does Iran have? They don't have an air force. They don't have a navy. They've got missiles. We're dealing with their missiles. China's not coming to their help. Russia's not coming to their help. And we're going to say we need an off-ramp, that we're going to negotiate something? No. Finish it. Finish it. Victory or unconditional surrender. Then we can try and figure out the rest of it. It may not be perfect. It may be ugly. Who knows? But to answer your question, it's impossible to know every single thing that's going to take place. But I do know that victory or unconditional surrender make it a lot easier.
Now, you're going to hear more from Mark Levin on this in about 10 minutes here. But something cool happened this weekend. When the bombings happened, I got the call, Parker, can you come on from 5 to 9 tonight, Saturday, and do some special coverage? We'll just wipe out the existing programming. We'll break in with special coverage. Sure. And so we had some people calling in, and some Iranians, people of Iranian background called in. And a couple of them said that we like this one leader to replace them from the MEK. Another guy called in. They're like, dude, the MEK, that's a bunch of lefties and communists and Marxists. I would like to have the son of the Shah. And then we had another guest that came on. It's like, I don't like either one of those options. Here's the option I prefer. And so if you want to know, if you want to hear from some Iranians and people who know more about the situation than I do, I took that 4 hours and I distilled it into a 1 hour summary that replayed yesterday. There's 1 hour on Sundays where it's the James Show replay. And so I selectively edited it out, the perfect little collection of different thought processes and different points of view from Iranians and Iranian experts themselves. And then after that, I was like, damn, that was good. So I turned that into a podcast and I uploaded it. So if you want to go hear that, go check out the James Show podcast. Go to WBAP.com, the WBAP app, or I don't know, the podcast app on your phone, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm probably there. But if you want to go hear that, that was amazing. I'm not going to go replay the whole thing for you here during the week. But I got a lot of compliments on that, which counts. Because when I broadcast from 5 to 9 on Saturdays, I am breaking into family time. I am missing time with my kids. And so it has to be something important. It was. And every time someone says thank you, it's like, good. It's nice that you said that. It's nice that people recognize that. It makes it all worthwhile because this was really important. So go check out that work when you get a chance at the James Show podcast. So I'm James Parker. That's going to be my time for today. As I mentioned, the great one, Mark Levin, coming up next. The Eagles are coming back to Globe Life Field May 16th. Tickets on sale this Friday, March 6th, 10 a.m. Go to livenation.com. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.